In this edition of In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, you're going to learn everything there is to know about punting, but you are afraid to ask. Well, Brad Robbins has all the answers. This guy is an outstanding punter. He can control a football off of his foot with hang time, directional accuracy. It's amazing to watch this guy. It's artwork. I mean, it's a craft, and he's very, very gifted. He's going to talk about his punting career. He's going to talk about his academic career. And you're going to be very interested to find out everything there is to find out about Brad Robbins. Thanks for joining us, as always, in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics in our outstanding studios. And we have a guest today that you're going to really have some fun with. You're going to really appreciate this guy. Brad Robbins, punter, University of Michigan, 6th-round selection by the Cincinnati Bengals. And this guy has a leg. There's no question about it. Welcome to the show, Brad.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor, Absolutely. A privilege. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's our privilege. So, I mean, when you were a kid growing up, I'm sure you played you're a very good athlete. You played all kinds of sports. I know you played football and soccer in the fall growing up. You played basketball in the winter, and you played baseball in the summer. And you were a pretty darn good baseball player. Did you think your future might be in baseball early on?
That's right. Definitely thought I was going to be a baseball player. Sometimes still think I am, I was kind of later when I was going to college and deciding where to go. I'd committed to University of Nevada at first with Coach Harbaugh, and I was going to try to do both there and potentially play baseball as well. But, their coaching staff ended up not re-signing and went their separate ways. And after that, I opened up recruitment, went to a couple kicking camps, and figured, University of Michigan was a perfect spot to land for me.
Boy, when Michigan extended the offer, it didn't take you long to accept that, I bet, huh?
No, I didn't even visit before I accepted it. I was like, that's, it's gold as far as, academics, as far as prestige, the school reputation, and as far as the football program. And then really what sealed the deal, I committed without going there, and then I went on a visit after I committed, and that really just sealed the deal, is how great the people are up there and how well they treated me. And it's definitely a spot where everything's earned, not given. Don't care who you are, where you're from, what's going on. If you can play ball and you earn your way and earn your spot, you're going to be able to play.
So you decide to go to University of Michigan. Both your parents are Ohio State graduates. You're from Westerville, Ohio. What was it like in your household when you said, I'm going to be a Michigan Wolverine?
Yeah, so I was pretty excited as, 17-year-old kid getting ready to go to college. And as soon as I committed, I came home and played the fight song. I had a speaker every time I'd go shower and stuff. And, I was blasting the fight song over and over again. And I think my parents were taken back by that. And they were saying, hey, we got to ease into this. And it wasn't the easiest turn for them, but definitely as I got there and progressed in my career, I think I flipped them to the right side.
So your dad, Eric, was a former punter himself, and I was reading that your Pee-wee football coach was looking for a punter, and your dad said, geez, why don't you, take a look at my son? And the first punt you hit was like a 38-yard spiral or something like that. That was like a perfect punt. Did your dad, at what age did your dad have you out there punting the football?
No, that was the first time. He was a punter, obviously, and he didn't ever have me in the backyard. I always saw him punt, and he would pay kids $1 in our backyard or wherever we were. And we had a football. He'd pay kids $1 if they could catch them. He was hitting those high-hanging spirals. So I always knew he could do it. And just kind of watching him, like my first punt ever, I wasn't dropping one-handed. I was kind of like the classic two-handed drop, how they used to do it. And that's how he kind of taught me how to do it. I was asking him what to do during that Pee-wee practice. And he's like, here, drop it this way. Just swing through that point. And, it was a turnover spiral. It was perfect. But he never forced me or asked me if I wanted to punt or anything until that point where it was just like, hey, why don't you give it a shot? Like, you got a big leg. I was a goalie in soccer. I knew how to hit the ball down the field. That was half the battle. So, yeah, it was just, it kind of just fell into place, and very fortunate to, if that didn't happen, who knows, maybe I wouldn't be punting now.
So you were a goalie in soccer. You were a punter in football. Did you play any other positions in football? And what about basketball and baseball? What positions did you play as an all-around athlete that you were or
Yeah.
are?
Yeah. So in soccer, I was, early on, I was like a midfielder, a guy like who
Uh-huh.
facilitated. As older, I became like a taller dude as far as like soccer terms go. So I'd play like center back or like left back, and then I'd play a little bit of goalie. Not so much in high school, but yeah. So football, I obviously punted, kicked, played a little bit of receiver, a little bit of safety. As I got older in my high school career, I was just started to focus on punting and
Sure.
kicking a little bit more. Baseball, I was a utility guy, but I played U8 through 18 travel ball. I was a middle infielder. I pitched. I was an outfielder. I could run. I could catch. I really played everything at least, a handful of times, except for catcher. I didn't play catcher. Basketball, I was a shooter, like really anywhere from like a 2 to a 4 position. And just depending on what set we had and what kind of guys were in at the time. But I was either like a 4 or a 3 mainly.
So you go to Michigan after your high school career, and Harbaugh is your head coach, and the Harbaughs obviously are very, very serious about the kicking game, special teams, dictating field position, all that kind of thing. How much of a blessing was it to work with Coach Harbaugh, and then kicking in? Here you are in the Midwest with the Cincinnati Bengals still. How big of a factor or how big a plus is it having dealt with the same type of weather conditions growing up? I mean, from a youth all the way through your collegiate career, here you are in the National Football League dealing with the same stuff, but you've dealt with it your whole life.
Right. Just the first part of the question was about Coach Harbaugh in Michigan, correct? The being fortunate to play underneath him and understanding, and it was really good. I learned a lot, and we had him and Coach Weiss the past 2 years too. Was a situational football coach, right? So taught us about a lot about different situations with the Bengals. We call it something else, as far as like Mayday type situation, and just I got to learn the ins and outs of the game, right? Coach Harbaugh was a quarterback. I just got to learn a lot from an offensive mindset. So I wasn't just learning special teams from Coach Jay Harbaugh as well, but I was learning the whole game from Coach Harbaugh and Coach Matt Weiss, which was, I feel like, a blessing. The ability to understand just the game as a whole is awesome. And then Coach Harbaugh is obviously a quarterback, so anytime we punt, that's a loss. So he was, he would give me an attaboy every once in a while, but I could hit a 70-yard punt, and it still feels like a loss a little bit just because we're punting the ball, right? But yeah, and then the second part to that is just dealing with the conditions. It's kind of second nature at this point. You grow up in all this stuff.
Right.
And it's really your ability to adapt is the biggest thing. And I mean, there's no such thing as beating Mother Nature. If the wind's blowing one way, you shouldn't fight physics and go against it, So the ability to adapt and adjust your drop and adjust which way you hold the ball for the kicker and all that kind of stuff is just, it's something that's going to benefit us in the long run. I feel like these Midwest type teams, specifically like the AFC North, right? A lot of guys who grow up in those conditions and play in those conditions often fare well in those type of environments. But yeah, definitely fortunate to have grown up in this Midwest area and ended up with this team to be able to, tackle those conditions and not only, go through them, but make them my strength.
No doubt about that. So on draft night, you get a phone call from the Cincinnati Bengals, and you were convinced it was a prank. Take us through that. What was it like when you got the call from the Bengals, and in your mind you thought, man, this is my friend. I'm getting pranked here. What was that all about?
Yeah, so I was treading carefully. I have a lot of friends in Cincinnati, and they went to UC, and I know they have my number.
Right.
I wouldn't put it past them to, maybe play a prank in that kind of way. But what stemmed that was like Moody and his girlfriend had just played a prank the night before on his parents, where he had his girlfriend call him or something like that, and was like, "Oh, I'm getting a call from like whoever it is," and the
Right.
parents are like freaking out. And then 5 minutes later, he's getting an actual call in the third round, and like, so in my mind, I'm like, huh, maybe he's pulling the same prank. Maybe someone else is doing like there's a lot of different things you can do with the phone that'll make it seem like you're getting a call from a 513. So I was treading carefully and seeing who it really is. And it kind of came off as sarcastic, but I just felt like I was, treading carefully as to who I was actually talking to, addressing the correct names, and trying to get them to reaffirm that that's actually them, But yeah, and then I saw my name pop up on the TV, and by the end of it, I was like, that was real. So that's good. That's good. That's a good thing. So it was pretty funny.
That is pretty good. You mentioned Jake Moody. You guys were a 1-2 punch, obviously, punter and place kicker. The second tandem taken in the same draft in the last 40 years. I mean, that's a heck of an accomplishment to have a tandem selected like that. What does it mean to you guys?
Yeah, definitely something we wanted to achieve as a group. Once Moody came in, he was a year younger than me. And we had a really gifted room overall. We had Cheeseman, who's a snapper for the Commanders now. We had Nordine, who's had a stint with the Patriots. And we had Will Hart, who was above me. He was All-American. And I think he had a couple camp invites and stuff. We had a really gifted room with a lot of talent and just a lot of high drive to wanting to be the best, right? So the ability to learn from all the coaches and the ability to compete every day against those type of caliber guys and have those expectations on us, and mixed with, a guy like Coach Harbaugh, who's just super high drive and always wanting what's best for us, really, boded well for our future. That was always a goal. Like I said, like me and Moody had was, in our snapper, Wags, who's actually going to be coming out this year. He tore his ACL in game 3. We were trying to get all 3 of us drafted in the same year. And see, that was our goal. And we were going to try to plead a deal with a team and see if all 3 of us could get on the same team. that was a dream. That was a dream a while ago, but it ended up working out the way it works out. And, it's such a blessing the way it happened, and quite an accomplishment being the, second tandem in 40 years.
That is amazing. Well, your numbers, I mean, you're second in school history with your punting average during the course of the career, second in a single season with punting average. I mean, you're in all over that record book. But the thing that amazed me, you did not have one touchback all year long last year. 16 inside the 20-yard line, pinning them inside the 20. No touchbacks, being plus 16 there. 1/3 of your punts were fair caught because of that extraordinary hang time you have. Your hang time, your accuracy, your consistency, reliability. You can hold. I mean, what can't you do? What of all the things that you can do, what do you look at as the most important?
There's a lot of things that are very important, and there's a lot of different facets in the game. There's a game within the game, right? And it's always just learning how to get better. And now I'm underneath, Coach Darren and figuring out, what can I do to take the extra step? I thought I was a really high attention to detail guy coming into this facility and thinking, I can bring this, high attention to detail and help guys out who need it. And really, it's a whole nother step of attention to detail with Coach Darren, and just the ability to be perfect every time. No one's going to be perfect, but I'm going to try my darn best to be perfect. Right. So, just working on a different kind of philosophy and holding. We've tinkered with a couple different things, tinkered with stance and punting, to just little stuff, right? And just becoming more consistent and more, efficient, just becoming more efficient with my body's movement. I feel like will just be better for me and the team, right, in the long run. The better I am as a punter, the more, the better field position we're going to have as a team, and setting the defense up for success, right? So there's so many things that are important. It's really impossible to put one thing in front of the other, but, I'm measured by hang time, distance, and direction. So I'd say those are the 3 most important things in punting.
Watching your hang time is something that automatically, first thing is, oh my gosh, man, the hang time is extraordinary. But then your directional punting, saw one practice. I saw you directionally kick with tremendous hang time about a half a dozen punts that all would have been within a hula hoop. I mean, they were all like right on top of each other, basically. I'm like, man, that is to be able to repeat like that. The repetition of excellence was the thing that stuck out to me. I mean, is that something that took time? Is it something that you had a natural gift for? What was it like for you?
Yeah, I've been working on it for a very long time, trying to be perfect in direction and hang and distance, right? And a lot of that is just coming more and more into fruition. This year at Michigan, our long snapper went down, so we changed our scheme. So directional punting wasn't necessarily a huge thing, but the year before that and the year before that, directional punting, we're a pro style system. That was a big thing. Being able to put the ball where you want it, when you want it. But like I said, those high expectations definitely drive you to be a better player. As of now, like I said, underneath Coach Darren, just being more efficient with my body, talking about feet and setup and picking a target line. So I think a lot of it is like putting in golf. When you're putting, when you have like a 40-foot putt, you're not necessarily looking at the hole, and saying, yeah, I hope it goes kind of that direction. No, you're picking a target line, and you're picking a target line about, a couple feet in front of you, and you're going to hit that target. And if all goes well and those couple things that you're focusing on, the putt will be good in the long run. So really, I try to bring that philosophy into punting is picking out my target point and then drawing a line down to about 3 yards in front of me, right where I want to plant. And I know if I end up in that spot at that exact distance, I know everything is going to be all right.
So Darren Simmons made the trip to have a one-on-one, interview and workout with you. What was that like? I mean, Darren obviously is serious about his craft, as a coach. There's no question about that. What was your impression of Coach Simmons after that experience with him?
Yeah, I just like the way he coaches. He definitely pushes you to be better as a player. Definitely pushes for that perfection, like I was talking about, right? So my first impression of him was, this guy's really serious about, what he wants done and when he wants to do it. Specifically, I know he told me, like, hey, during one part of the workout, he was giving me situational parts of the game. Like, hey, we're up by X amount with, 30 seconds left. I'm going to tell you to hit this, expletive ball out of bounds. I want you to hit the ball out of bounds,
Right.
So he was asking me what I would do in given situations. I was telling him, and then we were bouncing ideas off of each other, and then we go execute based on what we agreed on. And it's collaborative. It's a really good relationship that's being developed. And just the ability to gain trust from him really means everything to me. Hard guy to really impress. You never know. Like he's pretty stoic as a personality. Not a whole lot of smiles all the time, but on film when you're kicking and punting and stuff and you hit a good one, he'll give you a couple thumbs up. And I live for the thumbs up, man. I love the thumbs up. So that's what I'm looking for.
I hear you. It is interesting how punters and place kickers, when you're in the National Football League, you have athletic ability, no matter what you're doing, or else you wouldn't be at the highest level of that particular sport. I mean, I played with a kicker, Jim Breach. He was like, all city, all state in high school, in basketball as a point guard, football as a quarterback. I mean, this guy was an athlete in center field and baseball. I mean, he was like all league at least in every sport. And then looking at your athletic background, I mean, all you guys are extremely athletic. I mean, it's punting. It's not just anybody pull them off the street and let them just go blast the football. And there's more than just trying to kick the ball as far as you possibly can. There's an art to punting the football, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would consider myself sneaky athletic. Not a lot of guys would know I could shoot or know I could hit a baseball. And, I had, one home run going into my senior year of high school. I had a wood bat home run, hit it out of a college park. It's like not many guys think a punter can do stuff like that, but there's definitely a knack for it and an art for it. I believe you have to like golf to be able to punt. It's the same process thinking. A lot of the books I read are, related to golf and the thought process and the mentality, the different shots in the bag, the process over outcome thinking, the way you line up your shots, the way you line up your feet. It's all very similar and definitely bleeds over to both sides. But yeah, it's just, I feel like, if I had any advice to younger kids, it's just play as many sports as long as you can. Don't be, don't be a pitcher only from U8 to U18. Like, go try out different positions, try out different sports, go try out different stuff. And it'll help you in the long run, not just, with that one thing, but it'll help you in every facet of being an athlete.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, your overall body awareness and getting your entire body coordinated. There's a lot to be said for that, for sure. There's no two ways about that. Academically, I mean, that was always important to you as well. You've been very successful in the classroom as well. Tell us a little bit about your academic background.
Starting in high school, college. Where do you want me to start?
Yeah, let's start high school.
Okay. Yeah. I went to a small private school with about 70 kids in my class from freshman year to junior year. And it was like kind of a college prep type school. But there weren't any weighted classes, and I was getting like 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. And these courses were really challenging. And my senior year ended up, going to local public school after I, convinced my parents that, hey, I want to go here. I want to take AP classes and be with my friends, like the guys I grew up with across the street, and be able to have lunch with them and get to spend time with those guys, and they finally, after a year or two of chirping at them, they finally let me do that. But took some AP classes, IB classes, and ended up with a 4.6 there. Felt pretty good about that. I think I was like AP government, IB psych, and I ended up majoring in psych, right? So going into college, I didn't know necessarily. I thought maybe psychology, I thought business, I thought engineering, I thought architecture, and I really didn't know till my sophomore year exactly what I wanted to do. But the funny thing about that is after my freshman year, I get injured and go through an entire season of not playing and trying to figure out where my identity lies and who I am as a person, right? And that really just fascinated me to come out on the other side of that and say, man, I really want to work in sports psychology and be able to help people through injury and be able to help people who are maybe struggling on the field or off the field or whatever that is. So I decided to major in psych. I'm almost finished with my master's with it's going to be social work, an emphasis in leadership and development. And then I'm going to do a doctorate in performance sports psychology.
Wow. Ambitious.
But yeah.
That's good. That's good. So, I mean, it comes full circle. Here you into the National Football League, and you're battling with Drue Chrisman, Ohio State, and they're the Buckeyes again. It's the Wolverines and the Buckeyes. Your parents are Buckeyes. You're a Wolverine. Now you're battling another Buckeye. Have you always had competition at every level that you've played, or is this the most competition that you're going to experience?
My whole career is riddled with competition.
Right.
I've never had. I always got to bring my A game every day. That's kind of the way I look at it. And if I don't, I feel like I failed. Right. So that's the way I look at it. I've had competition at Michigan. Like I said, I got hurt that 2017 year. Right after that, got a weight room injury, was out that next year. Well, guess what? The guy who came in was All-American. So, what am I going to do now? Am I going to transfer? Am I going to, get out of here, figure out what I want to do? My decision was I'm going to get my degree as fast as I can. I'm going to work at this thing as hard as I can. If I can, win the spot back, that's what I want to do. I want to play here. I want to be a Michigan man. So I was kind of pressured. The trainers were saying, maybe you should medically retire. Maybe you should do this. Maybe you should do that. We need that scholarship type deal, right? And I was fighting through that and thought I was punting really well. So I forced myself back, kind of in that competition phase. And 2020, he ended up playing 2019, and I played the last couple games when we were doing like the rugby rollout style type stuff. Just like being an athlete and rolling out kind of like a goalie. I was able to hit that ball down the field far. Right. When we play teams like Ohio State, so we can just avoid the guy like Denzel Ward, right? So those guys running 4.2s off the edge. Like I'd much rather just go do something else, right? So,
Right.
kind of got my foot back in the door in that capacity. And then 2020, we split our reps. So he got open field punts and I got those end over end coffin punts, the inside the 20 punts, which I pride myself in being a strength of my game. And I was, with limited field position, was averaging like, 9 yards more. And at that point, we were going to Indiana in 2020, and Coach Jay and Coach Harbaugh said, "Hey, we're going to have you take all the reps this time." And went out, and I think I averaged like 53 with a net of 51, and just kind of cemented that job back into my hands, and felt pretty good. So that competition was very strong. And then you come in the next year, and we got a guy who's supposed to be the son of God coming in, supposed to be like the next best thing as far as punting goes. So all the media and all the hype around that is saying, well, he's going to take Brad's job, all that kind of stuff. And I'm hearing this and that. And then the guy comes in and, ended up winning that competition type deal and playing for 2 more years until I was an old man at Michigan. And, but now this is nothing different coming into the NFL. Is my whole life in every sport was riddled with competition. If I wanted a spot, I had to go earn it and go win it. But no, I'm just really looking forward to it. And, Drue's a really good dude. He part of the reason I went to Michigan is he was at Ohio State. He was a year above me, and he was on scholarship. So I ended up going to Michigan on a scholarship. But I looked up to him as a fan when I was, in high school and stuff, and ended up changing my alliance and now bleed the maize and blue.
There you go. And living your dream, National Football League. Here you are. I mean, it's quite a run. Absolutely, no question about it. And boy, in the AFC North, man, it's so competitive. Every yard counts. I mean, hidden yards, field position, putting them on long field, getting short fields for yourself. All that stuff is massive when you're talking AFC North football, but it is in the in the Big Ten. Your experience is there as well, so you're well conditioned for that. There's no doubt.
That's right. Every punt matters, and as of late with Michigan, you get about 20 of them a season because they don't punt too much anymore. But so every punt counts.
Yeah, that's the thing. Looking fifth all-time punting, like you said. You're only punting maybe once a game. I mean, it's not like the offense is struggling. You're punting 7 times a game. It's like, come on, man.
Right.
Some numbers.
Yeah,
some numbers. Go ahead.
Quite a change. 2017, we were averaging, I think, 7.5 punts a game. And now as of 2021, 22, it was like 1.5 to 2.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's numbers that are significant and others that aren't quite as significant, but I'm anxious to see you participate in this competition that's going to be going on for punting for the Cincinnati Bengals and in the AFC North. It's going to be a very, very competitive season, and you're used to that for sure. Appreciate you carving time with us. I know here the mandatory minicamp starts next week, and you'll be front and center in that, competing like everybody else. Thanks for carving time over the weekend here with us. Appreciate it.
No, absolutely. Thank you again for having me on. I appreciate it.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Hey there, everybody. I'm Dave Lapham, and we do a podcast called In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And if you want to hit the like button on when you're reserving any video, that'd be a good thing to do. And if you want to subscribe and not miss any videos, make sure you do that, because we are going to try to cover the Cincinnati Bengals every way that they can be covered.